Hello everyone. Razorblade Mango here. I know, I said July was going to be a hiatus month for the channel, but I had a burning desire to talk about this, so I'm going to record this while the iron is still hot inside of my belly. So, obviously, if you haven't been living under a rock this past week, Microsoft announced that they are going to be laying off or have laid off approximately about 9,000 people globally in their company. And that includes Xbox as well. And we've had news come out that teams such as the Initiative were getting shut down and that Perfect Dark game was canceled. You had the announcement that Everwild over at Rare was getting canceled, and one of the major people, or I think actually a couple major people at Rare are leaving as a result of this cancellation. You had one of the sub teams at ZeniMax Online, their project got canceled, and the entire team, I think, is in the process of getting laid off. And you also have second party teams getting their funding cut for their projects, such as Romero Games. And you also had a long time developer, Turn 10, getting 50% of their staff cut in order to basically become what I assume a support studio for the next Forza Horizon game. And you also have other things like layoffs at Candy Crush developer King. You have layoffs at Call of Duty support studios like Raven Software. I think either Beanox or High Moon were affected as well. I know there were layoffs at Sledgehammer. There were layoffs at Halo Studios. So it's just not a good day, to put it very mildly, or not a good day, not a good time for Microsoft and Xbox in general. But there are a lot of things I could say about this, but the thing that I really want to focus on for the point of this video is that with this most recent layoff and how it was handled and the absolutely just abysmal things that have come out of the mouths of some of the higher ups at Xbox in the wake of these layoffs and cancellations, is that I think as a result of the multiple layoffs that have happened over the last few years, I think Xbox's culture is basically dead. And what I mean by that is I think the level of trust, because when you're in a business, and I come from experience in the working world and having people both underneath me and above me when I'm in a working environment, you have to have some kind of underlying trust between you and the higher ups. That if the higher ups tell you something, there has to be some kind of predictable measurement of success and the results that come from that. For example, if my district manager comes to my job site and says that we're doing extremely well, I assume that means that I'm going to be able to keep my job, and that I am going to be able to continue working on what I'm working on in order to make the company more successful. If we're talking an example at Xbox recently, there was that story that came out that during one of the recent trips to ZeniMax Online, Phil Spencer and Matt Booty played the sci-fi MMORPG that they had in the works for a number of years, the Project Blackbird, I believe it's called. And there was an interesting tidbit where Phil Spencer was so enamored with the game that Matt Booty had to kind of come and take the controller out of Phil Spencer's hands and put it down just so they could continue their meeting when they were visiting ZeniMax Online. And if you are a rank and file developer at a studio like that, and you see the boss's boss come in and go, wow, this is really cool. I literally cannot get my hands off of this because it's so enjoyable. There's this element of trust that needs to be there when you visually see a result like that, that brings a sigh of relief, that brings, oh good, I'm safe. I won't be affected. And then a few months later, Phil Spencer announces that not only is that project canceled, but more than likely that entire team is getting laid off. And the team was just, they described that they were all dumbfounded, that it came out of the blue like a lightning bolt. And it's just such a terrible look. And That is what I mean by the culture. Because if I were a leader at one of these other studios, doesn't matter if it's at Bethesda or Xbox Game Studios or Activision, if I am looking at a result like that, I would be very confused, concerned, and angry at the higher-ups at Xbox and Microsoft right now. Because there has been this level of trust and action consistency, result consistency that has been pretty much shattered over these past few years. Because when I look at Microsoft and I look at Xbox over the last few years, one thing I am continually puzzled by, and this was even before they acquired Activision Blizzard, which I think the acquisition of Activision Blizzard in hindsight was possibly the worst thing to happen to Xbox culturally, because a lot of people have made this joke, but I really believe it. I feel like Activision Blizzard acquired Xbox and basically made them more like Activision, where now it's all going to be about the big money-making games. It's going to be about the predictable bets and little tiny projects such as Hi-Fi Rush and Keeper, the stuff that Double Fine makes, the stuff that Compulsion makes, the stuff that Ninja Theory makes. That is going to be slowly bled out of Microsoft gaming, because the higher-ups at Microsoft are now in control. And they basically come in and taking control of Xbox, because I think Xbox pushed too far, spending over $70 billion acquiring Activision Blizzard. And now there is this case of, you have these teams there, and I said this last time when they almost shut down Tango Gameworks before they were saved by Crapdawn, that there is no consistent measurement of success within Xbox anymore. Because Xbox's vision initially was, because we are under Microsoft, you can come here and we're going to create a family of AA and AAA games that are going to be subsidized by Microsoft, even though they're all going to be in Game Pass and whatnot. So you don't have to worry about making revenue, just come here and do your thing. And a lot of developers were lured in by that kind of proclamation and creative intent. That is not the case anymore, obviously. And I feel like a lot of these companies, such as Double Fine and Ninja Theory and Compulsion, and hell, even companies like Obsidian, I think the script has kind of been flipped on them, because now the mission statement seems to be go big or get out. That seems to be where this is headed, with Microsoft now having a lot more control. And I've always been confused, even before they bought Activision, what Xbox's measurements of success are. Because if you can make a game, you pour your heart and soul into a game like Hi-Fi Rush, really good fucking game, and the end result is not more support, the end result is not more resources, the end result is you all get laid off and your studio gets closed, then what the fuck are we even doing here? What kind of measurement of success is Xbox going for nowadays? Because the measurement of success that I can see just seems to be, if you aren't making Call of Duty money or Candy Crush money, then you're useless to us. If you're not a big tentpole franchise that's going to be a surefire bet, then you're just useless to us. And that is a horrible environment to create art in. Because now when Phil Spencer and Matt Booty, if I were a higher up, say at In Exile or Double Fine or Ninja Theory or Compulsion, if Matt Booty and Phil Spencer come to my studio and aren't able to put down the controller because my game is so much fun or my team's game is so much fun, that is not a sign that you are safe. And that is, again, a terrible environment for creativity. Because rather than making games for the enjoyment of it, Now there is this element of fear and uncertainty that will forever be hovering over Xbox's studios that they own now. And I think this ultimately falls on, I know Microsoft obviously has a lot to blame here. They share a lot of the blame. Like those fucks, Satya Nadella and Amy Hood. But I think the decisions that Xbox has made over the past 2 generations have created this snowball effect where they basically threw caution to the wind in favor of short-term gain and look at us, we're the big friendly company. And now, rather than a tiny little snowball, it's an avalanche that has been created with decisions like Game Pass, with decisions like swallowing up so many studios at once, like decisions such as falsely proclaiming that you are this safe harbor for creativity. Now you have created a dead culture within Xbox. That spirit of creativity, of camaraderie, of friendly competition between one another, that shit is done. That's done at Xbox. You're just Microsoft now. No pun intended. It's game over for Xbox as this weird creativity hub, this safe harbor for more creative artsy games. It's fucking game over. And I'm not saying it's game over as a result of these recent layoffs. It's just something that has been building because there is no easy to quantify measurement of success within Xbox. There is no trust between the higher ups at these companies and the leadership at Xbox. There is no consistent message that is being brought to the table and dealt out to the public. And there seem to be just these new initiatives that are being done within Microsoft that are basically just going to strangle Xbox even more in the future. Because make no mistake, this is not the end of the layoffs. This is not the end. I can imagine this happening again over the next 2 to 3 years, where if you're not, again, making Call of Duty or Candy Crush money, then get out. You're done. You're redundant. Microsoft doesn't need you as they spend $80 billion to chase this AI gold rush. It's like, Keeper? Double Fine? Psh, we don't need you. Compulsion? Making games that are more centered around racial, social issue? Nope. Don't need that. Get that shit out of here. These layoffs are just going to create cultures of fear at these studios, where even if Phil Spencer walks in with one of his Gamer Bro t-shirts and can't put your game down because oh my goodness, it's so much fun, that's not a sign that you're safe. If anything, Phil Spencer going on Twitter and saying, I'm visiting this studio and I'm having a great time playing this game. If he goes on a podcast and talks about, I am looking forward to such and such game and it is just wonderful, it's like my baby, I would say that's more of a death sentence than a confirmation that you're good, that your team's all good to go. And if I were at teams like Double Fine and Ninja Theory and Compulsion, I'd be very worried right now. I would be very, very concerned about my team's future prospects. So, anyway, I'm going back to hiatus now. I'll catch you guys later. See ya.